Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. Open banking is changing the game. Across Asia, APIs are making banking faster, smarter, and more open. But can banks and fintechs really work together? Are regulators keeping up? In this special episode of What the FinTech and Money 2020, we are diving into the impact of open banking, big opportunities, and the challenges ahead. Cheryl, do you want to introduce our guest for today?
Yeah, so today we have Fern with us, right? So, Fern, when we were in Vegas, Money 2020 US last October, I spoke to Sachin of Audax. And then one of my first questions to him was, how would you explain open banking to a 5-year-old? So now that we are in March, I want to ask you the same question. So how would you, Fern, explain open banking to my now 6-year-old niece?
Oh, that's a great question, Cheryl. Of course, I actually have three kids myself, so I actually constantly try to share with the kids what mommy does at work. So for me, I think if we were to take a step back, right, what's the definition of open banking? Essentially, it's really about a framework or a system that allows the secure sharing, right, of financial data with third-party providers. So traditionally, only the bank and the client, right, would be able to see our own financial information. But now, with open banking, we can actually have the right to choose who I want to share my financial data with. So again, to your question, how would we explain this to the kids, right? Whether it's a 6-year-old or is it 8 years old, I actually come with a prop. So you can see this. Yeah. So imagine if this is your piggy bank, right? The child's piggy bank, and he's got like money inside it, right? And on the assumption where, let's say, there's a toy that he wants to buy, right? But he doesn't know if he has enough money. So, open banking, it's like giving the child like superpowers. You can actually tell the toy, give him permission to go talk to the other toys or even the toy store to see whether have you saved enough? Do you have enough money to buy this toy? Right? Or do you want to buy bigger things? So, for example, if my son he wants to buy a video game, right, and he doesn't know if he has enough money, again, same thing. This is your piggy bank. Give your piggy bank the power and the consent to go speak to the video game store. Now, go ask yourself, do you have enough money inside the piggy bank? If you don't have enough, you need to go save it. So again, we use props, but with kids, that's how it works, right? Because essentially, what are we talking about? It's really about giving the child the power of consent, right? You get to be in charge. You get to decide, right? Who you want your piggy banks to talk to, right? And again, at the end of it, it's really about helping people. Open banking is really about helping people manage their money better, right? Building new innovations and financial services so that all the end users get to benefit from better innovation.
I love this answer. I love this answer. I'm so sorry, Sachin. I love this answer.
So, Maddie, how about you? How would you actually, describe it to your child?
Okay. The way I will do it if I use toys is like, oh, you have many toys and you don't know where all of them are, and you sometimes want to play one with one of the toys. Sometimes you want just to, like have the other one. How do you know where all your toys are all placed and where maybe the value or like the design or how you will like it today? Maybe if you have like a kind of uh, a way to connect all of your toys or like bring all your toys in the same pocket with the API, basically, you can
Yep.
see all your financial figures everywhere. So you can see where all
Yep.
your toys are at this moment. Are they in the room of daddy? Are they in the room of baby? Are they on the living room? So it's easier for you to just have a snapshot or big picture. But I will try to find a way a bit more entertaining to say that.
Look at
What
us.
about you,
We're
Cheryl?
teaching we're teaching children how to about open banking before they even understand the concept of is it object permanence because you're hiding all the toys in different rooms.
Yeah, but at the end of it, it's really giving the user the power, right? You have the right to grant
Correct.
consent, right?
Mhm.
If you don't want these two toys to talk together, you don't, right? But if you want your piggy bank to go talk to a toy cash register, because you want to know how much money you have, then, go ahead, grant access to each other. And I really think that's what open banking is, right? It's about enabling like that seamless, secure transfer of data, right? So that we get to build new value propositions.
Yeah, it's quite a good picture. I did like the Pikachu ones. Actually, I have like some Pikachu's on the side, but I will let them there.
Okay, they're talking to each other, maybe. Just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can give your consent.
Fern, I know you from a very long time because I was looking at your LinkedIn and the work you have done previously with Standard Chartered. And I know that you're working for Audax for like maybe a year and a half now. It's quite interesting as a move, as a person, because I'm also on the banking side and I see your career progressions. But I'm super interested of your role of COO of Audax. So we just mentioned about Open API, right? And you have seen how open banking is transforming right the financial services and landscape. So how do you think that API can change the ways of banks are collaborating with fintechs? Because there's a lot of talks, but we don't see every time a lot of integrations and collaboration and ecosystem created. And one question mostly for you this time, and how do you see Audax playing this role in this revolution?
Yeah, so thanks, Medhy. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a bit of time, maybe just 2 minutes, just to explain who Audax is and its heritage, right? So with that, you have a bigger picture of who we are and what we do. So essentially, Audax is a digital banking platform, right? Our aim is really to help incumbent banks modernize and scale at speed. And we serve them primarily in three use cases, right? Number one, either we can help you modernize your tech stack. Number two, we can help you build greenfield or brownfield digital banks. Or number three, if you're interested to build banking as a service, as a new business model, we are also able to enable you to do that. Right. So, like you rightly mentioned, Audax is a fairly new company. We spun out of the bank in August 2023. But actually, the truth is, our heritage actually comes from Standard Chartered. So Audax is actually a corporate venture that's been funded by SC Ventures. So SC Ventures has the mandate to go build new business models and build new revenue streams for the bank. And Audax is one of the many podcasts that SC Ventures has done. So going back to Standard Chartered, we were the same team, right? We were the ones that enabled Standard Chartered to build banking as a service as a value proposition. So, you asked about, oh, how do we help to drive this whole open banking revolution? And we've got a very nice use case for it. Essentially, it's really about Audax. We were the ones that powered Standard Chartered, right, to partner Bukalapak. So Bukalapak is like this huge e-commerce player in Indonesia. And together, they built this digital bank called Bukit Tabungan, right? So what this means is users, like a traditional retail user on a Bukalapak e-commerce platform, if they were to sign up for a Bukit Tabungan digital bank account, they now actually have access to financial services that traditionally would not be available to them. Right. So go back again on how does Audax play in this revolution space? It's really about open banking and the availability of APIs, right? Because we are now able to do seamless integration, right? We're able to do KYC digitally. We're able to help you build an open bank account immediately. And we're able to grant you new value propositions like now you get to open a small banking account, or you get to have like microloans. And for MSMEs, for example, which is a largely underserved segment, because of Bukit Tabungan and the partnership between Standard Chartered and that was powered by Audax, they're now able to have financial services that would enable them to run their businesses. Right. So again, we talk about this whole APIs, but it's really at the back end, right? And what we're driving here is we're able to drive financial inclusion, because if you think about it, in Indonesia, it's a huge archipelago. It's made of 17,000 islands. And traditionally, banks, right? It's the brick and mortar, they're in the cities. But what about a fisherman? They would not have a bank account, right? But they do actually have a mobile phone. Right. So with this whole notion of open banking APIs, and because of this whole banking as a service that we've provided Standard Chartered, people who traditionally would not have a banking account, they have a mobile phone, they're able to open a bank account, and now they have financial services right in their hands.
Got it. So I really liked the story that you told, especially with like MSMEs with the entire Bukalapak story, right? And because we are in fintech, because we're in finance, sometimes we forget that because especially sitting in Singapore, Medhy sitting in Hong Kong, we have the privilege of being like first world countries, correct? But we forget that at the end of the day, fintech it's supposed to empower humanity, correct? It's supposed to help transform lives, make lives easier. So I also want to, because we're drawing on this entire like storytelling element, right, of the lives that have been transformed and touched. So maybe Fern, could you tell me about a recent or most memorable partnership that Audax has been part of? What about it stood out to you and why was it impactful?
Okay, so for me personally, I think for us, our biggest claim to fame was really banking as a service, right? Powering Standard Chartered and enabling Standard Chartered to provide banking as a service to end user customers on other e-commerce platforms. But something that has been quite nice recently was the recent announcement that we made with Maybank Islamic, where we were selected by Maybank Islamic to help them with this whole digital transformation journey of theirs. Why it's impactful? Because you actually see the whole phenomenon of finance, bridging finance and faith together via technology. So just last week, right, we organized a Islamic banking panel. So one of the panelists said that Islamic finance, right, it's a huge market, right? So if I were to share some stats with you, Islamic finance in Southeast Asia is worth $5 trillion by 2025 and just like this year, right? And 22% of it's actually from Southeast Asia. So one of the panelists said that, Islamic banking as a concept, people usually think that the barriers to entry is very high because they always feel that it's actually very complex. She said, but if you strip it down, in Islamic banking, there are just a few key principles that we need to adhere to. And then we think about how we can marry technology around it. So we were talking about the power of digital innovation in this space because traditionally they feel like they are underserved, but now with technology we can do many cool things together. So that to me has been quite phenomenal because why are we in this innovation space, right? It's really about breaking barriers, breaking and building new business models. So in this case for us, the first claim to fame was banking as a service. Now the next thing we're bringing through is let's go do something cool with Islamic banking, right? So we're working with the knowledge experts with Maybank Islamic. We're going to bring in the technology expertise, they're bringing the product expertise, and then we're going to serve a new market altogether. So this to me is a good reminder of why we do what we do, right? And I'm really excited about this whole journey that we're going to go through with Maybank Islamic.
Example, it really resonates with me because last year at Money20 Asia, I moderated a panel on Islamic finance, and many people, when they see Islamic finance, are like, they feel a bit iffy about it, maybe. But something that one of the panelists, I think it was, she was from Bank Aladdin, she said that actually, you know what, if you think about it, Islamic finance was ESG even before ESG is cool because now
Mm,
all the corporations they oh yes ESG and they basically greenwash everything, right? But Islamic finance was ESG even before ESG was cool, and that quote ran free in my head.
mm. And I think again, right, like in this space that we play in, trends come and go, right?
Correct.
Back then it was like blockchain. This year is all about AI. But at the end of it, do we follow what's trendy or do we focus on the pain point of the end user? And for us, we are at the latter, correct? We're going back to what problems are we solving for, right? What's the solution? What's the TAM? And again, the cool part will fade, but really driving real impact on the end user customers. I think that's what excites everyone here.
It does. It does. Yeah. So you talked about how open banking is Audex's claim to fame, and also so before we get there, right? And also you talked about how Southeast Asia is so fragmented, right? And then basically the entire suite from the start to the end, there are a lot of challenges, and that is where Audex comes in, right? So what is the key challenge that banks and fintechs face when integrating APIs for open banking? And how does Audax help?
Yeah, so for me, I think the reason why we're able to call banking as a service as our claim to fame, it's really about great regulatory support. If you think about it, right? If no regulator support, there's no whole open banking framework, no such thing as collaboration. So it really starts with having a good regulator, right, who has the vision and the gumption to want to come. Let's do something cool for the end users. So if I were to bring it back to Indonesia, right, which was where we built Bukit Tabungan, it's about Indonesia, right? So Indonesia's regulator OJK, they have the open banking framework. They lay out, okay, if you want to test this out, this is the sandbox. Because there's that framework, it actually gives banks um, the risk appetite to say, okay, the regulator has lined this up for us. This is what we can do because there are certain guardrails. So Indonesia, we've got OJK there, who's painted it out. So again, for Malaysia, right, because we're partnering Maybank Islamic, they also have BNM. Right. So BNM again, they've released licensing framework for digital banks. I think they've got recently a sandbox for Islamic digital banks. And I think recently I was just reading up, they also have this whole thing called a new green lane for financial institutions, where they help you expedite your innovation experiments. So to me, we really have to say, with good regulator support, a lot of innovation can happen. And the truth is, we don't need to go so far. Just in Singapore itself, because we've got a very forward-thinking regulator, and this whole thinking of open banking, right? So, like for us, we've got SG Findex, right? So SG Findex is this whole notion where, in Singapore, a lot of us have different bank accounts. So it's actually quite difficult to actually have a full overview of what your entire financial net worth is. So what I did was just I was just playing with it last week, right? You open your banking account, you click on the SG Findex button, you click on it, you read the terms and conditions, you click agree. What it does is it brings you into SingPass, where it authorizes you via biometrics, and booms, within 10 seconds, I think, right? I was able to have a full snapshot of the financial holdings I have in different bank accounts, including my CPF, which is the pension fund, right? So again, it goes back to what can open banking do, right? We need the regulators there. With the regulator support, right, all the banks are saying, okay, good, these are how we're going to lay out the APIs. This is the new use case we can solve. And at the end of it, the end users benefit from it.
Well, quite interesting. Actually, I have a question because
Mm.
you speak about open banking in different countries. One is about like Malaysia and Indonesia. The other one is Singapore. We are like totally different markets, right? Not about only the size, but also in terms of like development, where Singapore is more like a service city state. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? But financial inclusion is not one of the top priority, maybe for banks in Singapore compared to Malaysia or Indonesia, where like financial literacy will be like more important there, and having like a financial inclusion is more important as well. Maybe Singapore is more like underserved than inclusion, I would say. So, how do you see the impact of Open API for like a city like Singapore or Hong Kong, for example, compared to what you just described for financial inclusion?
So I think because it's two different markets, right? One's a developed country. So Singapore clearly is a developed country. Hong Kong, for example, we're also developed countries. The use case here for financial inclusion may not be as pronounced as the developing markets, Indonesia and Malaysia, right? But what I can draw to is open banking, right? Helps to facilitate this whole notion of embedded finance, right? Embedded finance is simply about embedding financial services in e-commerce platforms. What we do see is, then I would say, let's take a look at it from an ecosystem play, right? So number one, Singaporeans here are mostly overbanked, right? But so the financial inclusion piece may not be as pressing versus developing markets, but there are also other ecosystems such as Grab, which is it's a ride-hailing app, right? But yet, right, it's got this strong financial inclusion narrative because, it started out as a ride-hailing app. They embedded finance within it, loans, micro insurance, right? And this whole financial inclusion is when COVID happened, remember, they said, oh, suddenly we're helping people build jobs, build new streams of income. That to
Hmm.
me is a different angle of financial inclusion, but it's a different use case, correct? Whereas for Indonesia, financial inclusion is really about reaching out to the people on the islands, right? Where they would never be able to get a traditional bank account, but now they do because the digital banks are everywhere. As long as you have a mobile app, I have internet access, I can have a digital bank. And I think one of the statistics that some may know is in Indonesia and the other developing markets, they don't just have one account, they actually have many mobile phones, right? And again, at the end of it, this is really financial inclusion at play. I would say it's different tiers, different levels, but the narrative is still the same. We are trying to enable, right? Enable and lift the entire society up so that everyone has got greater career aspirations for their family.
Mm. Yeah, I just wanted to actually, Fern, to follow up on your previous answer where you talked briefly, or actually quite a bit on regulation, because over the weekend I was reading up on regulations in open banking and Southeast Asia being so fragmented, right? You have like Singapore progressive on like open banking having the open APIs frameworks, and then other markets like Vietnam, they are more is it company private sector led. So the way I understand it is Audax, they come in with a regulator support to lead and help companies with the fragmentation. Is that right to say?
No, so it's actually the other way around. So again, what we do is we serve incumbent banks. So incumbent banks who say, look, I want to build a digital bank, or I want to build banking as a service as a new proposition. That is the use case. And we say, okay, we've got a Standard Chartered heritage, right? We've been there, we've done that, we can help you, right? That's where, so the incumbent banks are the ones who build the use case. They are saying, okay, I want to build a digital bank, right? Or I want to build banking as a service. This is my e-commerce partner, right? I need a technology provider, right, to help me build this whole proposition. Audax is the one who will be able to help them, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of it, they are the ones, incumbent banks are the ones who have to go and reach out to the regulator to seek for all the various approvals. Yeah, so there's a slight difference. So we are again digital banking platform. I help incumbent banks pursue their digital transformation dreams.
Got it. Okay. So, another question. So, unrelated, because Medhy and I, we literally just got off another podcast, which was on AI. So, I wanted to understand, how do you see emerging technologies like AI and blockchain working together with APIs to create new financial services? We're already starting to see quite a few. I see that you're very excited, very eager to answer this question.
Yeah, so again, if no one talks about AI this year, then I would say, where did you come from, right? So, as usual, every technology company, right? The truth is, I don't even think it's just FS space, right? Across various industries, across different sectors, everyone's really bullish about AI and how it can drive operational efficiencies and build new use cases. But again, if I take a step back, traditionally banks AI is already used in banks, right? We see it in, like, let's say AI 1.0. We see it in chatbots. I see it in like fraud detection, AML, KYC. I see it in like customer service centers, right? Even predictive analytics. So AI deployed in banks, I think it's not a new use case. I think right now it's about, can we use AI to write code for us? Can we use AI to do copywriting for us? Can we use AI to build websites for us? So it's really about supercharging the business using AI capabilities. Of course, right now I'm not in liberty to share with you what are the various experiments that we're considering, right? But I heard of something really cool. So just over the weekend, I've got a friend, he's ex-Palantir, and he's building this AI agent, right? That's able to scour through your data 24/7. So the next morning, if I were to wake up and I just have to, there's an internal like a chat GPT or Perplexity, where I say, okay, give me my financial reporting metrics for today. And then because of the AI agent, right, scurrying around 24/7, is able to spit out the report dynamically, real time for me. So that to me is really cool, because traditionally this would have been done via an Excel or financial analyst. But now with the AI agent there, everyone gets to work faster. So I'm excited because there are plenty of use cases we see everywhere. But to me, it's really about seeing these use cases being implemented in traditional FI spaces, and then we get to see the real impact.
So Europe, in terms of open banking, I think we all know that Europe is a lot more advanced in terms of open banking. I think Europe claims to be the one who invented the term open banking, correct? And Asia right now, it's still stepping up in terms of, or like playing catch up in terms of the applications, right? And if we were to look at Asia in terms of the use cases, it's by and large it's still very different from what we are seeing in Europe because of, well, how Asia is constituted, right? So like serving the actual needs per region, like we mentioned quite extensively on like serving the underserved just now. So sharing of knowledge, sharing of data there between like the entire open finance framework, right? Not just open banking already. So I think that is where we're seeing like the difference.
I also think in
Mm.
Europe, when you look at the information or you go to some of the conferences, you can see that some companies can, via open finance, open banking, generate new revenue streams. Also between the banks, the fintech, and the non-financial players, and you have also companies just specializes on this, creating like a new way of
New fintech
operating business.
apps. Yeah.
Yes, so this is quite interesting. Yours is one of these example right now.
It's really about what does open banking enable, right? For the businesses, it's really new business models, new use cases, and new ways to make money,
Mm.
right? But for the end user, I always felt that that's quite amazing because can you think of the day where we never had embedded finance in any of our super apps? Which means, can you imagine doing ride hailing and then you have to close this app and open another app to transfer money? I don't think I can ever go back to those days where nothing is embedded, right? And again, right, it's really because there's technology, right? There's APIs available, and the end user always benefits from it. So for me, like it's not just the ride-hailing apps that have embedded finance, not just digital banking services. If I bring you to something closer to home, let's say you want to buy a property, you go to a property website, right now it's so cool, right? You see the property, they have APIs that links you to Google Map. You're able to tell you, oh, which part of Singapore or Hong Kong this property is in. How about the affordability? Can I afford to buy this property, right? Oh, guess what, you have a mortgage calculator embedded within the same app, right, to tell you, oh, what's the affordability, what's the current interest rates, and how old are you, what's the tenor, what's your monthly mortgage. So again, goes back to this whole notion of open banking, right? These are the various use cases. We've spoken about the financial services as a use case, embedded finance in ride hailing as another use case, and now, closer to home, you want to buy a property, you never have to open different apps anymore. It's always one app, you do end to end.
And like we are speaking about current use case, right? But for you, what are the next interesting use case we can have in 3 to 5 years from now?
From an Audax perspective or a
Both,
personal perspective?
both.
My background is in innovation management, right? For me, it always goes back to design thinking basics, right? What problems of customers do we want to solve? Traditionally, I like to start with a day in the life of, right? If I wake up, what do? I brush my teeth, right? For the savvy bankers, they check their stock markets, right? For me, oh, I need to send my kids to school. I need to pump petrol. And if you think about it, finance is embedded everywhere within our lives, right? I need a stock market, there's a trading app that's required. If I need to go pump petrol, I need to pay for the petrol as well. So because embedded finance is embedded within different touch points of our lives, to me, it's really about how do we build ecosystems that we are in, right? And we make it seamless. So I think I'm just looking forward to the next few use cases. I think it could really be, I don't know, social media, right? How can we monetize the social media content, for example? I think gamification is a great space where I'm not a hardcore gamer, but I do know that's a huge market, a huge opportunity there as well.
At the end of the day, as as you mentioned, it will be the ease of use. Like you
Mm,
mentioned, you cannot imagine last time we used to have to open multiple apps just to do the same thing, right? And
yeah,
as we progress, as technology progresses also, it's just going to get more easy, more simple.
seamless. Yeah.
Yeah, seamless the way we do things. And I think most importantly, the layer behind it is also the trust element. That let's say
Mm,
I were to make payments or I buy insurance through, let's say Grab, for example, I know that definitely I'm going to get good coverage. That sort of trust
mm,
has to be instilled at the consumer level.
mm. I think for me, the day where I can wake up to get money move without me having to tell money to move, I think that's as seamless as you can get.
I want
That's
money
the
to come to
goal.
me without me saying anything.
What can be interesting as well is to have like your different investments or different like bank account from different countries into the same platforms as well, just to have
Mm,
a real snapshot of everything you have. So, for example,
mm,
I'm
mm, mm,
French.
mm.
I live on North America. I live in Asia. Can I see everything on the same app securely without being like afraid to be hacked as well, and have a real picture of what is happening today as the 11th of March on my, for example, bank account, investments, or if I have loans or property together.
Yeah, and you know something? I mean, if I stretch the trajectory out, it's not too far away because at some point in time, we need to plan for our retirement.
Mm.
Retirement may not be retiring in my home country. It could be in another country, right? And how do you monitor your entire legacy planning from a holistic overview perspective, right? So this whole intergeography connectivity is something that we can watch out for, I think.
Maybe I have a last question for you because we're already here for 35 minutes. What are the biggest misconception you have on open banking that consumers or businesses can, share with you, or when you are working with them, you can feel this kind of misconception?
I don't know. I think Cheryl spoke a lot about trust,
Mhm.
and I also felt that there's a trust element. Like for Singapore, the reason why we're able to reach this mature state, it didn't happen overnight, right? It's really about building trust. A lot of it is on education as well, and so it's about trusting this whole phenomena, right? Where this is in Singapore, the regulator has allowed for it. This is the technology that's in place. You can trust, right? When you say you want to move your money to Grab or something like that, it's safe and secure, right? So to me, I think it's really about trusting that open banking is something that's recognized by the regulators. It's something that the FIs, treat with seriousness. It's really about benefiting the end users, right? And so that we get to enjoy all these new innovations. So to me, it's really about trust. And I'll share with you an interesting story since we're going to end the podcast, right? So when we first launched, we powered Standard Chartered and we launched Buka Tabungan, right? Um, this whole trust in digital banking was still a bit in the nascent stage, right? So when we were testing the app, we did pure KYC. So it's a straight through KYC, right? Biometrics, right? And back then, I think the users were not used to it because what they usually do is I have to go apply for a bank account. I have to wait for a callback. So someone from the bank will have to call you and verify that you're indeed real. So when we did a straight through KYC, right, purely biometrics, we actually had males putting on hijabs, trying to pretend to be females to open bank accounts, right? And really, they were trying to test the system, right? But of course, it failed. And to me, it's really about. And if you look at the comments during the customer feedback, people really didn't believe in this whole digital banking. Is it? Can I trust it or not? But now you see, a few years down the road, digital banking again is a norm, right? So to me, it's really about an element of trusting the technology that's in place, educating because this is quite important. There's digital and financial literacy that needs to be emphasized on, and at the end of it is also time. With time, people start to realize, this thing is real, this thing is regulated, this thing can be trusted because we've got a full cybersecurity team around it. All right. And then you see, okay, now we've reached the stage where, if I look back, I don't think I can go back to days where I have to open different apps just to get something simple done.
Very good, very good. Cheryl, do you have any other questions or comments you would like to add on?
Just think that that last clip was a perfect soundbite. I help you
Which one?
identify the
Like that?
soundbite, the entire thing. Your three, the trust and then time and then something else. Perfect soundbite.
Education. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Perfect.
That's it.
very good. Thank you very much
Okay.
for joining us today. Thank you, Cheryl, for
Oh,
driving this. Thank you for listening to What the FinTech podcast. A big thank you to our guest. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and see you next time.